All right, everyone, we are back with Bob Kudla. Bob has become a really good friend of this channel. He's of Trade Genius Academy. If you're not familiar with Bob, you ought to be. He started Trade Genius Academy back in 2015 after 25 years as an executive for two Fortune 500 companies in the financial services industry. And over the past 5 years, Bob has amassed an amazing 65% overall win record in the market. And so in our past conversations, he's helped us make sense, particularly financial sense, of the coronavirus pandemic. We've talked about a post-pandemic economy. We talked about a riot economy, a post-riot economy, an election economy, a post-election economy. And so today, Bob's going to give us a sense of what to make of things as we approach the summer here. So Bob, welcome back. Great to have you with us.
Thanks, Dr. Steve. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's great to have you. Let's start with our macroeconomics here. You're so good at that. It does seem Biden has hit a bit of a wall, shall we say, in the Senate when it comes to passing his agenda. What are you seeing there? And more importantly, what is the market seeing?
Yeah, yeah, this is not a surprise to me. You know, everybody was so worried when they lost the Georgia election that we're basically going to go to hell in a handbasket with left-wing policy. But there are 4 or 5 senators that are on the Democratic side that are basically creating a logjam for Biden that he won't be able to overcome. You have the senator from Montana, senator from Colorado, the 2 senators from Arizona, and then you have Joe Manchin out of West Virginia. All those people are barely elected, very tight margins in states that Colorado's interesting. I'll get to a reason why in a second, but are really Republican-led areas of the country. And so, Colorado is different because of the oil and gas industries there, and so you have to be very careful because a lot of jobs can go away if the Green New Deal and mining jobs go away. And, the states generate a lot of revenue from those concessions. So they have to be really careful how they kind of split that down the middle. Colorado is kind of like, progressive on social issues, but all the jobs are there because of the red type of policy. So he's having a hard time trying to drive through some of the plans that he wants to do. Look, he made a decision to go racial. And so, now the politics have become racial. And so you have a lot of white Democratic, senators and congressmen that have to now, they're going to be colored by it as well. So it changes the algebra quite a bit. And so, it's going to become urban versus non-urban type of voting. But he doesn't have the numbers. And there's simply no way that these people are going to allow basically the 5 urban elite areas to dictate terms for the rest of the country. There's an interesting map. Maybe next week, next month or so when we talk again, I'll show you the map. It shows you by county, I think it is, the red and blue for voting, and so really interesting to see where the majorities were, and that makes it even more apparent that the concentrations in certain areas that if these policies got invoked, that you're going to have a vast majority of the land basically not governable. People will just not obey the rules. And especially now that people are figuring out this whole COVID thing was probably overplayed. And so, so I think he's stuck, which is great news actually for the economy and the markets, because the markets don't like radical policies on either side. And so what you're seeing now, though, interesting, is that they can't get it through legislation. The progressive left are trying to use corporations now as their regulatory tool. We'll fire you. We won't let you buy. We'll move our baseball tournament to another city. stuff like that. And that'll start reverbing to the other way. I feel really bad for these woke CEOs when 2022 comes along and the House of Representatives goes back, or the Senate goes back to the Republicans, and they won't forget. So that's what on that side. I don't want to belabor that. That's good news, I think. And Biden, I think if Biden had his faculties and he was 10 or 15 years younger, he'd be swinging deals. Okay, but he's not himself, and he's basically being led around the nose ring by his progressive staff. And I think that's why we're just seeing these crazy things. Now, the thing of Biden is what's interesting. He was always a champion of the African American people. So, and I think Trump would have done the same thing. That part of the country definitely needs investment. So it's just the way they're doing it is they're doing it win-lose with the Biden administration versus win-win for the country. They're making it like you have to lose so that we can win, and I think that's not playing well.
Right. Yeah. Well, the left loves victimology, and in order to be part of the left, you have to be a victim, and it becomes really strange. You think of someone like Gina Carano or something, who's supposedly part of the victim class of women, but the moment she sounds and speaks like herself and reflecting her own thoughts and the like, and for the left, she starts to sound and speak a little bit too much like the victimizer class, right? In our Marxist terms, victimizer and victim. All of a sudden, she has to be excommunicated. So it's almost like the left requires anyone and everyone who's going to be accepted within its ecosphere to be a victim and to remain so. The moment you break out of that victim mentality, you're no longer welcome. You're by definition part of the victimizer.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm more confident. They eat their own,
right?
And they're just going to run out of people.
Right. Well, it's an anthropological principle, when the tribal leader ends up being too much of a dictator to his people, they pick up and they move on to neighboring tribes, and pretty soon those tribes get so big that the original offending tribal leader becomes lunch, for the neighboring tribe. So it's in his vested interest not to tick off that many people. But wokeism is a very new thing. It's not had to adapt to circumstances. This is what makes the world religion so astonishing, is the way they've been able to adapt and survive for thousands of years. Wokeism has just been around for 20 years or so, and it doesn't feel like it has any responsibility to adapt at all to changing circumstances. But, well, speaking of adaptation, how's that for a segue, right? When we last talked, Elon Musk had just dumped $1.3 billion into Bitcoin, sending it up, shooting, I think it was called, if I recall, 30% in literally 15 minutes or so after he did that and put his little hashtag Bitcoin on his Twitter page. Well, now Tesla has announced that they will be accepting Bitcoin as a legitimate currency in the purchasing of their cars. So what is going on with crypto from your vantage point? It just seems like it's found its voice in the economy, hasn't it?
Yeah, and that Tesla news, although it's like 2 weeks old, it's like medieval news event, because you got Visa now.
Yeah,
that's going to create a portfolio. You have now more and more of the asset management companies setting up tools. You got a bunch of ETFs now trying to get approved, and now you're seeing, today Bitcoin actually broke out to new highs once again. You got Coinbase, which is American exchange for crypto, is going public tomorrow, and that should be a sight to behold in terms of the enthusiasm people are going to have to trade that, and so, Bitcoin found its voice because an alternative is required to the banking system. And look, my view is that Bitcoin wasn't created accidentally. I think there's a lot of very, very secret support for Bitcoin in the United States. It serves the purpose as a pressure valve against inflation because money can move into there. It doesn't affect housing prices, doesn't affect oil, doesn't affect food prices. And where would this money go? Where would this $1 trillion go if it doesn't go into crypto, right? It would push into some areas where it would make things uncomfortable for the Federal Reserve, right? So so you have a pressure release kind of valve for inflation, and I'm becoming more and more convinced of that because we just pay lip service to it. If they really were worried about it, they could have killed it 5 years ago. When it really wasn't that many people interested in it. Now it's woven into corporations, it's woven into insurance companies, it's woven into payment systems, and look, it's here to stay. Now that doesn't mean if people know anything about crypto is that it's made these movies 3 to 4 times in the past, blows up, and it has these pretty sharp pullbacks. So you have to just you have to kind of understand the asset you're dealing with there. But look, our view is now that it broke the highs, we're looking at 68 to 78K to onto 6 figures. And then we'll just have to kind of see what that looks like this summer. But it's not just the crypto world. I know people are interested in crypto, maybe afraid of crypto, but trade the stock market. You can actually trade crypto within the stock market by buying companies like Riot. That's a good kind of Riot. Mara, BTBT, Grow, DPW. These are all miners that are mining Bitcoin and other tokens, and they're now holding off the market. So they're creating a supply shortage, which is draining the main exchanges of Bitcoin, which is giving support for the market. Look, we've been following it. We just had a trade today. Look what Riot did today. It's up almost moved up $8. We now jumped off of that trade and we jumped on tomorrow for tomorrow because that one held back, and we just been trading in and out of these names constantly, just based off our trade triggers. And so it doesn't even matter if you don't have a crypto account. You can actually leverage other people owning crypto for your own personal wealth and benefit. And you get a chance to play leverage with calls and put options and stuff like that you can't really do so much on the crypto space unless you have a bigger stash and you're willing to take on leverage that probably you shouldn't. So so tremendous opportunities, Dr. Steve, and I think this is, I don't want to say it's just the beginning, but we're probably in still the first half of the baseball game here, and Bitcoin will get less and less volatile over time.
Mm-hmm.
When institutions hold it, they tend to dampen down the volatility, but you're going to start seeing still a nice curve, higher on it, because look, the Federal Reserve is increasing their balance sheets, and central banks around the world are increasing their balance sheets, and that's a good tell for how the cryptocurrency markets are going to go. They're going to go as long as those central bankers keep printing worthless coins for us.
Great point. Wow. So fascinating. Let me give you a couple of shout outs here. Jennifer Lawrence took some great profits today. This was great, Bob. Now 50% cash. What's the backstory to that?
Oh, we're coming up on one thing too. We're coming up, spotting this hit. The market just hit all-time highs today too, but it's reaching a kind of an inflection point where it's probably will need to pause, if you will. And so that's one of the things that I've been talking to our people in the rooms is that, hey, we've had a great run this year, and on top of a great back half of 2020, is time to pull back a little bit, raise some cash, be more careful in your trade, because we're probably due for a 10% pullback here in the next 60 days. So
okay,
let's get some dry gunpowder.
That's right. There you go. How about Kathy? Beautiful trade on Mara, Bob. Sold at 55.12.
Yeah, Mara is one of the things that we introduced our traders to. That's one of the Bitcoin miners, and it's a company, a really interesting company. They have some intellectual property, plus they have all the trading rigs. And Mara and Riot have both been selling their coins into the exchanges until recently. And once they decided to hold their coins onto the market, I mean, off the market into their balance sheet, their companies took off. That company went from 20 to 60. Riot went from $2 to 80.
Wow.
And they pulled back after the all-time high. Now Bitcoin's making an all-time high again, and Mara and Riot are gonna move again. So we're just helping these guys trade these, and she's just thanking me for the trade that I called out for her.
Wow, amazing. Here's Tyler at PSLV is popping off a bit. Does silver finally move up today? LOL. Looks like Bob is correct again. All my miners are up pre-market. That's great. What's the backstory there?
Yeah, so we're talking. Look, silver and miners are actually starting to get a bid, and people were talking about, should we get into SLV? And I said, well, PSLV is a better play because they don't have the derivatives that are fighting the value of the silver ETF. PSLV is owned by Sprott in Canada, and it's a 1-for-1. So whatever he has under management, it's available for basically, if you have $1,000 worth, you have $1,000 worth for it. If you have SLV, they may not give you $1,000 worth of silver. They may give you an IOU slip. And so I was telling people PSLV is a better way. But the silver miners, we just jumped in. Last week we had 4 or 5 good trades. This week, again, it's continuing on. So we think silver is finding its bottom. And what's really interesting about this stuff, Dr. Steve, is the Bitcoin miners held their asset off the market. The uranium miners saw that. They started holding uranium off the market, and you started seeing uranium miners start to pop, which we trade quite a bit. The silver miners, if they start holding silver off the market, silver's going to the moon because there's just no supply out there. So people are starting to hold off market because they basically see the inflation that the Biden administration is unleashing on the world, and if you hold hard assets, you're in control.
Awesome. That is so cool, Bob. Give us a sense of what our viewers could expect if they were to sign up with Trade Genius this week.
Yeah, I mean, so what we do is let's say we have 7 bundles that we offer. So depending if you want to trade stocks or crypto or both, if you're beginning or you're more advanced, so you can pick a package that best suits your needs. But once you join, you have you get invited to our Telegram room for chat. You get invited to TradingView, which you have to set a subscription for. But all our algorithms and our indicators are already built into a template. So all you have to do is download the template and put it on, and you're in business. You have everything I have right from the get-go. You don't have to think about how to add all these crazy indicators and algorithms. We already have it pre-built for you. You just pop it in, you're ready to go. You can start trading within hours of joining the service. And then every day I give out trade signals. Those attaboys typically come from people getting one of my trade signals and thanking me for them helping them make money. So we teach you how to trade, and then we give you the tools, and then we give you trade. So our goal is to not be guru based, if you will. There's a reason these trades work. It's not a great mystery, but it's a model that works well. And we're trying to teach people, if you just follow this model and you follow the algorithm, they literally say buy and sell, Steve. You can't get much more difficult than that. And once you find the stuff that you like and the time frame you like to trade, is that you can't help but make money over time. And then we just help by telling people, like you and I talk here, what's the macro picture look like? Look, there's some sectors, no matter how good the stocks are doing, you just want to stay away from. So you buy the sectors that are in ascendancy, and then you buy the stuff that is dipping in those markets, and you're going to be just fine. And I just called the 3 out. We talked about these last month, and nothing's changed. Uranium, Bitcoin miners, and fertilizer stocks all still good to go. Silver, we keep dabbling in them. Call me stubborn, but we're making money on them, but it's not as fun as the other ones are. But eventually, silver and gold miners are going to explode, and people are going to be happy they're in. And then we're in and out of energy, because that's where the big money likes to hide in inflation. They like to hide in energy. So just stay in those areas, and you'll do just fine, and we'll help guide you.
Oh, that's great. Excellent, Bob. So we're going to have a link down below underneath the video for anyone to click on it. Do you have any specials or anything like that coming up this weekend? Or
Yeah, we do. So just like we always do for your listeners, Dr. Steve, we all the bundles are pre-discounted 65% off, so they can pick what they want. They don't have to apply any promo codes or anything like that. You have till Saturday to take advantage of them. And then if you want to just buy anything individually that's not bundled, you can just go ahead and pick that, and you get 45% off. We're still using the promo code for Easter and until the end of the month. So take advantage of it. But the pricing is good till I guess what date already? Got time's flying. So till the 17th, it's good to go.
Excellent. Well, great, Bob. Thank you so much for bringing some sanity in these insane times. You're very much appreciated. Thanks again for being with us.
Thanks for having me.